Hi, welcome back to another ink review. Today I'm going to review the Parker Quink Green. And you may think, but you already reviewed that one. Yes, I did, but later I found out, you can watch a little video about that. I found out that there was another green Quink ink. One is a more vintage one, the other one is the modern one, this one. Both are discontinued now, but there are differences between the two. So, the package where it comes in is this package with green ink. You can still find this on eBay, or you can find an ink bottle. And the cartridges are like this. And the only thing I have available for this version is this box of ink cartridges, and I don't have that many any longer. I have two left. But it was fun enough to make this review and comparison and so on. So, this is where the ink comes. I like Parker Quink because it is generally a well-behaved ink, and it's quite inexpensive. So here you can see the swatch of the ink. You can see it is a bluish green ink. I don't know how the camera will show it, but I find this a little more blue here on the camera than on paper. But I can show you other inks to compare with. Let's keep this in the middle. This is the one we are comparing. This is the Parker Quink Green, the older one. It also looks a little more blue here, but it's definitely more green than that one. We have the Montegrappa Green there, also more green. And I have two more greens that I find they are useful for this comparison. One is this Ackerman Opfkvartiergrün, which means it is the Ackerman number 28. It's easier to say that way. Let me put it here. Which is much brighter and with a little yellow tone. And we have the Lamy Green. And you can see that the more bluish green we find here is the Montegrappa Green. And the other greens are not that alike. The Parker Quink Green is more similar with the Lamy Green, the vintage, but the modern one has no real equivalent in the ones that I have here. So it is very, very blue. And when we look at the chromatography, we can see there, Parker Quink Green, we can see the blue. First, on the bottom, I do these chromatographies by putting ink there, a line of ink, and then I let it dry. I know this is not the way how we do chromatographies of inks, but it is useful to see if there is some permanence there or not, some water resistance. And then I put it on water and let the water run. And you have here a darker gray, but almost no, I would say, any water resistance. And this goes up there with this grayish thing. And then on the bottom, on the top of the chromatography, you see that there is green and mostly blue. So it really corresponds to the swatch. There's a lot of blue in this ink. Now, let me show you the pen that I chose for this review. This is a Parker Frontier, and the Parker Frontier, this is a duotone green with gold trim. The duotone green and black. The cap is quite snug. I didn't use this pen that much. And I made a review of the Parker Frontier before. It has a fine nib. I think you can see the F there. So let me show it to you. There it is. And this is a nice pen that takes cartridges, so this one is the pen that I chose. You can watch the review of the Parker Frontier somewhere here in the channel. Now, the performance of the ink on paper. Let's start with the moleskin paper, this one. And we will see that the ink spreads a little bit in this paper and feathers quite a bit. You can't see really much line variation, color variation. You can see some. You can also see some darker edges, but not much, but lots of feathering, and the pen went through the fibers of the paper and lots of bleed through, which is quite normal on moleskin paper. Let me show you the swatch again, and those dark outlines of the inks that you can see there maybe are these darker parts that makes the frontier between the places where less ink is put down and the places where more ink is. Now, let's go for the Oxford optic paper. And in this paper, you will see that the line is much slimmer there because there's a lot of feathering here. No feathering on this ink. And you will see that here you can find that's completely clear. You'll see some color variation, some shading, let's call it that way. There's no sheen, there's no special characteristic, but you can see the shading, and there is no feathering, no bleed through, and you can really see the darker outline on this Oxford paper. And then we go to the Navigator copy paper, and you will see that the ink here, this paper makes the line go broader than that one, but less than that one, because it absorbs more ink. There is no feathering, although, but there is some bleed through. So the worst performance on paper was on the moleskin paper. And let's go for the Rhodia paper, and there I made the test. You can see that you have definitely some shading. Again, there's no sheen, no special characteristics, as I told you, and as you can see here, no sheen, just maybe there but you need a lot of ink to have some sheen. It's not visible, and it will not be visible in normal writing. But so, here on the paper, no sheen, but definitely you can see some shading on this ink. About the drying time, yes, it takes quite a lot to dry. 35 seconds on this paper, I think this is quite a lot. And then you have the ink, the water resistance test, and you'll see that the places where the water was dropped over the writing, you cannot see nothing of what was written before. When you looked at the chromatography, you may thought that this could be visible, but this line is not visible at all. All the ink goes away, all the color goes away. That's how you see here. So this is an interesting ink for me. I don't really like it. I don't like bluish green, so this ink is not one of my favorite. I prefer the vintage Parker Quink because it's much more greener. But if you like shading, you can get a lot more shading with this ink. Also, it looks like it flows better, but I don't really love how it looks on paper. If you are interested, you can go back and check the review on the vintage Quink Green. And now, just to finish this video, we'll have to go for the traditional phrase that I only use, at least so far, in these ink review videos. And let's do it. And the quick, I was going to write Quink, that's why I made a big Q. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. And you see this ink is very wet. There is lots of ink on the paper still because, as I told you, it takes quite a long to dry, and this shades a little bit if the paper is good. So it could be an interest if you like the shade of the ink. If you like this bluish color, you may like this ink in good paper. In a paper that is not that good, like the Moleskine, it will not allow you to have your normal handwriting and you cannot write on the other side of the page. So, I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope this is useful. I will go back to some vintage inks that I have around. I guess I have more vintage inks, more at least discontinued inks than normal or still available inks, but maybe this is interesting for you because some of them can still be found out there. And this is all for today. I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.